Am I the a-hole for refusing to make my husband apologize for what he said to my mom at dinner table? So, I female 31 recently got married to my husband Scott male 36. Before I met him I was engaged to my former fiancé Martin, but we broke it off because this relationship was sort of pushed by my family because he's a doctor and comes from a wealthy family. When our relationship ended mom was devastated. She did her best to bring us back together, for example she lied to Martin about me being pregnant to save us. That was years ago now we're all on good terms including Martin. Mom has a bit of tension towards Scott, she treats him well, but constantly makes passive nagging comments about him. She compares him to Martin all the time which bothers both of us, but we try to let it slide. Mom kept telling Scott about the diamond ring, new car, and bank account Martin got for his fiancée and kept sending him photos, saying how generous Martin is to his fiancée, then compared him to Scott and what he had done for me. I told her stop doing this, and she apologized. Last week, we were over at my parents' house for a social gathering, lot of relatives came, and we had dinner. At dinner table mom asked Scott if he saw the text she sent him the other day, he said he was sorry and that he didn't notice. She told him to check it right then and read it out loud so everyone at the table could hear. He took his phone and started reading the text out loud. Her text mentioned how Martin got his fiancée a new house and how generous he was, then said that Martin is younger than Scott yet was able to buy a house. Basically shaming Scott for his inability to buy a house. She wrapped up by saying that Martin maybe wasn't so bad for me after all. I was shocked and Scott was pissed obviously, however, he didn't lash out or anything he looked at the text, smiled and said you know, what gets me about this entire text is how you were a public educator for 30 years, yet you can't differentiate between the passive you and the contraction you're, good God. The thought of all the children that must have been left behind. Everyone at the table busted into laughter and mom's face went pale. She decided to leave the table then she and my sister started yelling at me, saying Scott was being awfully rude and I need to get him to apologize immediately for embarrassing mom at the table. I refused to tell him to apologize, then pointed out how she was being judgmental towards him, she defended herself, saying she was just letting him know and he had no confidence and took it personally. I left but kept getting told to talk to him and get him to apologize for what he did. Am I the a-hole for naming my daughter the same thing as her half-sister? Last summer, I 33 female started sleeping with this guy 45 male. In December, I found out I was pregnant and while I'm pro-choice I decided to keep it. I was already feeling like we were at the beginning of the end relationship-wise, so I said look, I'm pregnant, I've made this decision, but it's up to you if you want to be involved and it's okay if you want to bail, I have the resources to do this alone. He said a baby wasn't something he wanted and I said that's totally fine, I won't even put your name down on the birth certificate, we can treat this like a sperm donor situation. He agreed. After that, he predictably started pulling away and we broke up. 3 months post-breakup, when I was 6.5 months pregnant, this woman DMs me and says hey were you sleeping with my husband until recently? It turns out that he had a wife and a 13-year-old daughter. His wife is in the process of getting a divorce from him and gathering evidence of what turned out to be a wild amount of infidelity, so she was relatively cordial and believed me when I said I had no clue. Even before we'd broken up, I'd told him that, if it was a girl I wanted to name her Samantha. Samantha isn't the actual name, but it's a similar long girly name with multiple nicknames, it was my sister's name, before she passed away, and even before that it was a name I loved for aesthetic reasons, we always talked about naming our daughters after one another before she passed. He expressed dislike, but I jokingly but not really said it wasn't really his decision. After everything came out in the open, I found out that the reason he was against the name was because his 13-year-old daughter is named Samantha. Now that everything is out in the open, he said so what are you going to name her, and I said what do you mean I already told you, Samantha, and he said you can't do that, that's my other daughter's name. I said that he lost naming privileges a long time ago, and if anyone asked I was happy to make it clear that I'd been the one to pick the name. I also reminded him that I still wasn't obligating him to be involved in this in any way, and given how he'd lied I frankly didn't want him to be. But if and when he chose to be involved, I was going to hold him to it and expect child support visitation etc. Which from his POV is non-ideal, because he doesn't want the responsibility of care and especially doesn't want the responsibility of child support and asset splitting. Rather he wants to have his cake and eat it too, I take on all the responsibility, there's no paternity test, a blank father's name on the birth certificate, but he still gets to have opinions. Which frankly suits me as well because I don't want to be legally tied to him. But when I told my friend, she said that while he didn't deserve any courtesy, it was an unkind thing to do to his 13-year-old. TLDR. I found out that the father of my unborn baby, who had already said he didn't want to be involved, has a daughter with the same name as my unborn baby. I'm not willing to change her name. Am I the a-hole for keeping all the money from mine and my wife's baby shower? My wife, 24 female, and I, 29 male, are having our first baby boy. We are due in May, so we had our shower last weekend. Her family didn't really plan the whole thing other than decorating, so I ended up purchasing a venue as I wanted to make a big deal of this to make my wife feel special. I spent $2,500 on this venue, which I was prepared to do and okay with. My wife wanted something smaller initially, but I wanted to do the co-ed thing and invite my friends and family too. After paying for the place, my account was depleted and I won't be paid again for 2 weeks. So I took all the cash we were given in cards and deposited into my account. We ended up getting about $1,600, so I only ended up paying less than $1,000 for the shower. My wife is upset about this because she feels as if the money should be used for more baby things and not to pay myself back, as she put it. I told her I can't just have $0 in my account for 2 weeks, and she said I should have thought of that before booking such a big space for the shower instead of doing something smaller like she originally wanted. She's also upset because a majority of the money came from her family. I honestly just assumed any money we got was going into paying for the shower, and she assumed it would be for whatever else we didn't get on our registry. I can't help but feel like she is being ungrateful about the situation, but I also possibly should have planned ahead so I wouldn't be left with no money. I will probably use the money on baby stuff anyway, however I need gas and food money as well. Am I the a-hole here? Am I the a-hole for using my husband's money to pay for my daughter's Apple iPhone that he broke? My daughter is 16. She had her old phone for 5 years and always wanted a new phone. I'm the only one working right now since my husband decided to take a break from work after he inherited some money from his dad. I saw that she did pretty good at school, despite having mental health issues that had gotten in the way of her focus before, and so I decided to keep her encouraged and reward her by getting her an Apple iPhone that cost a good sum of money. I did my best to save money to buy it. I literally skipped paying for breakfast at work to be able to afford it, and my husband didn't want to help, so I was on my own. I bought her the iPhone, and quite honestly, I haven't seen her this happy in a while. It was refreshing for me because she really went through some hard time in the past couple of years emotionally and mentally. My husband wasn't happy with this. He said the iPhone will only distract her from school and chores, but that wasn't true. In fact, it encouraged her to do more. But he still said I shouldn't have spent that kind of money on an iPhone that she might be irresponsible with and break. My daughter picked up on his attitude towards the iPhone, but I told her to ignore him. Days ago, I found out that he broke the iPhone. I asked why, and he said he asked her to get him something from the toolbox in the garage, but she was on the iPhone and ignored him. He used this incident as evidence that the iPhone was bad influence, but I yelled at him and demanded he replace it. He said he wouldn't, so I took money out of his account and paid for a new iPhone and gave it to my daughter. He saw what I did and went off on me, calling me vicious and awful, and accused me of stealing his father's money and demanded the money I took, every single penny, back. I basically told him it won't happen. He got his mother on me, saying I'm setting a terrible example for my daughter by getting her a phone paid for with money that I stole from her dad. My husband said he won't speak a word to me till I fix this, but I already said I owe him nothing. Am I the a-hole for this? ETA. No, he's her biological father, not stepdad. And price for the iPhone where I live is $1,000 and it's not cheap. Finding out that I took $1,000 out of his inheritance really got him so furious that he said I was the worst woman he met in his life. He had 2 ex-wives. If this is in any way relevant, he took it back later, then said he won't speak till the money is back.